You are at the point where you've got some investors, you've gained some interest, and you start negotiating and you're looking at deal structure. Or actually, you really should be looking at this even before you go out to investors, but this can get very confusing. And I've seen people make this overly complicated, and it can really bite you down the road. So it is actually super important to educate yourself a bit on all the options, all the different ways that you can structure your company to bring in investors. So that is what we're talking about today. This can make or break your fundraising efforts, deal structure. By the end of this video, I want you to know how to set up your seed funding with terms that are flexible, future-proof, and ready for growth. So let's dive in. Step one, keep it simple and flexible. So raising seed money can be obviously very unpredictable, especially for early stage startups. That's why it is, honestly, it's crucial to set it up in simple and flexible terms to start. It will help you avoid headaches down the road. It makes future rounds easier. It's just less confusing. It's going to be better for you. So remember, the simpler the structure, the faster you can get funding, the less negotiation, and that equals more momentum. So one major tip here is avoid using non-specialized attorneys who could complicate things. So there are services like Clerky.com. I interviewed Darby Wong. Go back, listen to that episode if you haven't. He's amazing. He's a co-founder of Clerky. They basically will do a lot of this deal structure for you, and then you can just have it reviewed by a startup attorney to make sure that, they're looking at your whole situation personally as well, and just make sure you have all your ducks in a row. But a service like Clerky is going to be reliable, and it's going to save you so much money. And it's just going to set you up in a way that will pay off down the road. So definitely highly recommend listen to that episode and check them out. There's a few different services like that, but I know they're great. Step two, choose the right structure. So the two most common structures for seed funding are really convertible notes and SAFE. SAFE stands for a simple agreement for future equity. It was started, I believe, by Y Combinator like maybe 10 years ago. It's an even simpler form of a convertible note, and there's virtually like no negotiating. It's amazing. Both options are very popular. I used convertible notes before, and the main reason is because it allows you to delay setting a valuation for your company, which is a very smart move while you're still kind of, getting some initial traction. Again, so maybe you don't have revenue yet. Maybe you're not sure how quickly you'll grow, right? Like, what if you get your funding and you grow a lot faster than you thought you would? Then you could give up a lot less equity if you just determine that valuation, a year and a half from now, once you've seen, even better growth than expected, than if you were to set a valuation right now. So you could grow much faster. It could take longer. Either way, there's a lot of advantages to not determining a valuation in the seed round. So convertible notes, let's talk about those real quick. It's essentially a form of debt that converts into equity during your next round of funding. So you're avoiding setting a valuation. A lot of times the investor will set an interest rate. So they're going to be, let's say they put in 100,000, easy numbers. They're going to collect interest on that 100,000, maybe 5% over the course of the next 12 months. And then their 100,000 plus their interest, whatever's, accrued up to that point, is going to convert over into shares. So, maybe it's 105,000, whatever it is, 110,000. So then the other advantage they're going to get is they're going to get a discount on the future share price. So typically anything from 10, 20, 15, 25%, something like that of a discount on that future share price. So let's say in that future equity round, each share is $1. They're going to get each share for maybe 80 cents. So that's their, benefit for investing really early, is they're going to get kind of a better deal on that share price than that future investor. Now, the other thing is there's usually a term to these convertible notes. So you want to give yourself a long enough runway to, get some traction, hit the milestones you need to hit, and close that next round of funding. So if you can get 24 months, I would say do that. The longer you can give yourself, the better. And then what you want to do, you want to make sure that no matter what, at the end of that term, if for some reason you don't raise that next round of funding, you still want it to convert to shares. You don't want them to be able to call the note due and payable. So again, there's a lot of little details there, but overall, it is still a lot simpler than doing a formal equity round. It's what I used. I did multiple rounds with convertible notes. You can, add on another round if you're still not ready and you need some more money. You can add, have somebody else come in at the convertible note terms before you do that equity round. But it's a great way to start off. The other one, the safe note, similar to convertible notes, but with no maturity date or interest. So again, even more simple, even more entrepreneur friendly. And, you might have a discount rate and a valuation cap, which is going to limit kind of that future dilution of those early investors. But often those aren't even included. So this is very simple. Clerky can do this for you. You can have everything dialed and ready to go in just a few days, a week tops. It's very simple, very fast. It's going to save you a ton of money, and it's going to leave you a lot of flexibility to see where your startup goes in the next, say, 12 to 18 months, and then raise the money you need. Step 3, part of the deal structure, is really kind of setting up an option pool. This, it's an important tool to be able to incentivize early employees or maybe compensate advisors or board members if you don't have funding to compensate those people. Even with that early seed round that you're going to get, you might need to put all of that into the business and not be able to actually pay advisors or board members or employees a full amount. So you're going to want to have that option pool set up to be able to, give out some equity, sweat equity, more or less. And a lot of times startups allocate anywhere from, say, 10 to 20% of the total equity to an option pool, but you can do that different ways. Keep in mind, an option pool dilutes the ownership percentage of existing shareholders. So you want to carefully consider the size of your pool. And you want to make sure that the stock options vest over time. So don't ever give an employee all their shares up front right away. You want to say, okay, over the course of the next, 2-3 years, you can earn X amount of shares will vest, each year, and that you contribute X, Y, Z, or you hit these milestones or that kind of thing. So you just want to make sure that everything is performance-based and you're not just giving away some shares. That way, if in 6 months they're like, this isn't for me, or it's not working out, and they leave, you're not giving them that whole piece of equity, right? That whole 1% or whatever it is. And you want to also make sure that you really understand how the stocks work, because there can be tax implications for your early employees. They can have to pay an exercise price. So they could end up having to basically leave your company. They've worked their butt off for, 2 or 3 years for sweat equity. And now they have to pay money for the shares in order to keep them. So you want to consider all these different scenarios. And, these are people who believed in you early. You want to do right by them. So make sure you set it up in a way where they are going to get rewarded for what they do. You don't want them to get kind of screwed over there. So just understand how all that works. Okay, so those are the 3 main components of an early stage round of the deal structure. Stay flexible. Your business will evolve. Choose structures that can accommodate future changes. Be transparent with investors. Clear communication about your deal structure is going to build trust. It's going to smooth out the fundraising process. understand the impacts. So every decision you make, whether it's setting up a convertible note or a safe or an option pool, it affects your future and your company's future. Get counsel. You don't have to spend, a gazillion dollars on an attorney, but you do need to consult with someone legally and ask them. What I like to do is, what's the worst case scenario? What happens in the worst case scenario? I want to always understand, not to be negative, but just to be prepared. I want to understand all the different possible outcomes as thoroughly as possible. And you're really going to need some legal counsel because this stuff does get confusing. So understand the implications of your terms. Here is a great tip. There are a lot of attorneys out there, especially bigger firms, who will do a lot of the upfront startup work for free if you agree to work with them ongoing. So they know after you close your funding that you're going to need, an equity round, you're going to need further counsel. And a lot of them will be open to doing initial work upfront for free. So don't be afraid of approaching the bigger firms to, get feedback and to advise you at this early seed stage. I did this and it was a huge, huge savings at the very beginning. So again, it might seem very complex, but getting it right is important. Take your time, consult with experts, choose the structure that best supports your goals. And there's a lot to know here. So all I can say is just make sure you get proper legal advice. Don't go to your neighbor who's a divorce attorney down the street for your startup paperwork. So that's it. I hope that's helpful. It's an overview. There's a lot to it, but that should give you the basic idea of where to start on how to structure your seed round. If you have any questions, reach out. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.